We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxing Ego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Your boy Ego coming to you live. Are you chasing a bag or are you chasing greatness? These are generally two different paths. Shakur Stevenson has left fans confused, to say the least, with his upcoming fight pick. It is announced Shakur Stevenson will be facing none other than Joe Cordina. Now, I've already talked about this. A lot of you guys on my previous video, you left the phrase, which let me know the world needed an unpacked. Now, I tell you guys all the time, from the audio quality, the visual quality, the voice, the boxing knowledge, that because you can have all the quality in the world, audio and visual quality, and still not know what you're talking about. So I give it to you in one comfortable package. This is your one-stop shop for your boxing news. Bet on us. There's a lot of content creators that the quality is just lacking. Both the boxing knowledge, the audio, the visuals. It's like people are just rushing to put out content to try to get views. And I hope you guys understand. I created Unpacked years ago so I could really break it down, because that's what the boxing game needs, real conversations. And the other thing I noticed is over here, we don't beat around the bush. Steak and potatoes. I give it to you real. And there's a lot of narrative spinning with this move from Shakur Stevenson. So please allow me to unpack this. That being said, make sure you guys subscribe. Shakur Stevenson has, again, left people confused with this pick, this upcoming pick. Nobody really even knows who Cordina is, to be fair, outside of like the US or the UK, really, or possibly like hardcore fans. So this is just a goofy pick. And I really expected more from Shakur Stevenson. All the trash talk, all the slights, the things that he said about other fighters, this becomes inexcusable, if you will. This is not a first-time occurrence. And here's the deal. Shakur Stevenson, just like Terrence Crawford, their fan bases, as well as them to a degree, they blame previous promoters for their inability to sell, for lack of exposure, lack of branding, lack of quote-unquote help in terms of becoming a star. They blame Top Rank. But we got to unpack this. And you look at the situation, Bob Arum, I'm not saying he's perfect, but he has been in the game for years. He doesn't look so crazy all of a sudden. The stuff he said about Terrence Crawford, he said, Terrence Crawford, he's an amazing fighter, but every time he fights, I lose money. I could have bought a house in Malibu, right? They just loaded up a card and gave it to Crawford on a silver platter. They said, here you go, Crawford. Here's a fight for you. Full and complete with an Eminem performance. There's several different levels to devil worshiping horses, right? You had all the makings to money behind you. You said other people didn't promote you fairly or were racially biased like Top Rank. So that didn't happen, and the fight still flopped. Shakur Stevenson states that he basically has been blackballed by his former promoter, and he can't get the big fights that he wants, and he blamed Top Rank for it. But my question to you is this, is how can you blame Top Rank when you're not with them? You're no longer, and I told you it was going to be very, very important to see Shakur's next move, because his next move would say a lot. Here's an example. If your girl was mad jealous and you were in a committed relationship And let's say you wanted to be a rapper, but your girl was so jealous, she was fearful that women would be around at the music video shoots or they'd be lingering around at the studio. So you claim you haven't made it as a musician, as a rapper, because your girl held you back, right? Because of her jealousy issues, right? Here's the thing. Who do you blame if the girl breaks up with you and you're now single? So now you don't, if she was the anchor, then you should be able to undock the boat and then, start sailing. But oftentimes what happens is people will make up this excuse game, this blame game. They have no self-awareness. They have no accountability. And they'll blame others like, man, I can't get a job because the man, and things like that. Now, in certain situations, maybe that's true. Maybe there's a bit of nepotism, or maybe there's some kind of bias, or you're being overlooked. But a lot of times it could be you're not qualified, or you don't do a good interview, or you're not a good worker, etc. And I think when it is those times, there's a lot of times where people overlook their own faults, and instead of improving upon those faults, they'll just blame somebody else. So again, if you said you haven't blown up because you're a girl and you're no longer with your girl, then who do you blame? You don't have a patsy. You don't have the convenient scapegoat of, I would be X, Y, and Z. I would be further along if she wasn't holding me back. So regarding Shakur Stevenson, again, if the holdback was actually Top Rank, why are you fighting probably worse than what you were getting? I can't even say probably. Your boy Ego don't make too many mistakes, but we're going to run that back. You're definitely fighting worse, all things considered, in this fight with Cordina, because the man has not competed at any high level at 35, and he's coming directly off a knockout loss, right? So Top Rank was at least giving you Robson Conceição, who I thought beat Oscar Valdez, Artem Harutyunyan, who he was coming off of a loss, but he is an Olympian. And now you're fighting somebody even lesser known. This pushed you back further. This pushes you back immensely, because why did you select this person? Why are you going along with this? And then to boot, you're fighting on an undercard. So Shakur goes from fighting on a Thursday with Edwin De Los Santos. Virtually everybody hated the fight. Then he says he wasn't healthy, refuses to rematch Edwin De Los Santos, which would be a good rematch that I would like to see. Come back, says he's fully healthy, and he's going to stop and do what Frank Martin could not do and stop Artem Harutyunyan. Before the fight, during the fight, even in the corner, Shakur Stevenson was saying, oh, man, I'm going to stop and watch. Oh, give me a couple rounds. As the fight progressed and he's seen that Artem was durable and trying to figure things out and was capable, then Shakur's whole energy changed, and he started saying stuff like, oh, he running. Oh, he's in survival mode. Man, I know y'all want the stoppage, but I don't think. Shakur, it sounds like, and this is from someone who's older than him, it sounds like he is a young man that likes to hear himself talk, because somehow he started blaming his grandfather in the corner, and he says, I know y'all want the stoppage. I know you want me to stop him, but I don't know, because this guy, he's just running and trying to survive. Pathetic, because you were the one pushing the knockout. And I think that's the biggest gripe that myself and other people have with Shakur Stevenson. You're talking, and you're talking too much. And then when you can't live up to said expectation, now, of course, people are going to look at you a bit different. What it is, you previously dissed Gervonta Davis. You dissed Frank Martin. You said these guys, for Tank, in fact, we'll just listen to what you said. Shall we? Roll the clip.
You think Tank washes? You think he washes Frank?
So let me get the headsets and let's get active. So this is what Shakur Stevenson previously said about Gervonta Davis and Frank Martin. And this is just one interview, mind you. He said many things. Roll the clip.
You think Tank washes? You think he washes Frank Martin?
I mean, that's why he fighting him. He's picking and choosing. That's what he do.
I mean, that is why he is fighting him. That's why Tank's fighting Frank Martin. He's picking and choosing. So that means cherry picking. You said that Tank Davis is a cherry picker and he's picking and choosing his opponents.
Washes Frank Martin?
I mean, that's why he fighting him. He's picking and choosing. That's what he do.
That's what he do. Tank, listen, let's see what else he said.
He's picking and choosing. That's what he do. Tank take the least risk. If Tank was really...
Tank takes the least risk. I mean, bro, this sounds insane. You're saying Tank ain't taking chances and he's not a risk taker, and yet you're fighting a guy who hasn't really fought at 35 at an elite level, especially. He's a domestic level guy at best. There's no branding there, and he got cooked in his last fight and battered by a guy who's not even known as a big puncher per his box rec. But, you know, that's fair because there are some guys who they're hitting harder than their record would show or indicate. But either way, he got destroyed.
Tank take the least risk. If Tank was really a risky nigga or this person he claimed to be, he would have fought Edwin De Los Santos.
Then you're throwing Edwin De Los Santos on Tank, but you the one that need Tank's the A side. He could pick whoever he want for real and make an event out of it. You're fighting on someone else's undercard. See, accountability. You're fighting on someone's undercard. You're not in that position. You don't have the fans like Tank or like a Canelo. So it's going to be harder to explain away. And you, for real, don't have the resume, especially at 135, to even up with Tank. So instead of worrying about what Tank is doing, Tank this, Tank that, which we'll get into, you should be worried about what you're doing. And to say that Tank ain't taking chances, he's not taking risks, but he's fighting Frank Martin, the guy you wanted to fight, and then you're fighting a guy from 130 coming off a knockout loss. Your second person that you're fighting in a row that is coming off of a loss. You're fighting people that are coming off these losses. You have no room to talk. It's just what it is.
Why not fight the nigga that actually fought me instead of the nigga that pulled out from fighting me?
And again, Shakur, he's talking as if the world revolves around him. Like, you're the A side, you're Tank. They got a plan for him. The plan seems to be working. The fans are behind Tank. He's a knockout artist, which is always going to sell and entertaining. And you're acting like he's doing something wrong or like his events ain't selling. You're the one fighting on someone's undercard. You're the one fighting on a Thursday.
But Frank Martin is not like no elite fighter.
Frank, see, that's what I'm saying. I can't even stomach to listen to this because it sounds so bad. You're saying all this, you're talking all this trash about everybody else and all up in everybody else's kitchen and all in the Kool-Aid, don't even know the flavor, as we used to say back in the day, right? And Frank Martin's not elite. You're bashing everybody. You're saying that, oh, Floyd Schofield ain't this. I would rather see you fight Floyd Schofield than who you're fighting. I would rather see you fight Frank Martin. If you're going to fight a fighter off of a loss, I'd rather it be Frank Martin than, because he lost at top level. He lost to a Tank. There's really no shame in losing to a top level guy. There is a bit of shame, however, losing to a guy who you were favored to beat and is unknown, like Kakashi at 130. Period. So no matter what you fools in the comment section say, I know what I'm saying. I know what I'm saying, and I know it to be true. This just does not age well for Shakur Stevenson. You're talking about virtually what everyone else got going on and this, that, and the third, but you're not talking about you. You're not talking about what you got going on.
Washes, you think he washes Frank Martin?
I mean, Frank Martin is a dude that signed up to fight me. And choosing. Got famous for signing up to fight the least risk. If Tank was really not fighting me, a risky nigga or this person he claimed to be, he would have fought Edwin De Los Santos.
And us knowing
why not fight the nigga that actually fought me instead of the nigga that pulled out from fighting
Joe
me.
Cordina's fame.
But Frank Martin is not like no. That's where he got famous. That's where he's famous for. Dude that signed up to fight me.
So what is Joe Cordina famous for? Nothing.
To fight me. When they said and
he's
then
famous for getting battered and knocked out in his last fight.
That's where he got famous. That's what he's famous for. Literally, when they said Shakur versus Frank Martin was gonna that's where he got famous. That's what he's famous for. Signing up to fight me and then not fighting me. That's where he got famous. That's what he's famous for. Literally, when they said Shakur versus Frank Martin was gonna fight, bro, and then not fighting me. That's where he got.
I'm not sure if there was a technical issue, so we'll rerun it back.
Fight me, and then not fighting me. That's where he got famous. That's what he's famous for. Literally, when they said Shakur versus Frank Martin was gonna fight, bro, this nigga name done blew up. And now we up here like we gonna fight each other. Then he backed out the fight.
Again, this is delirious, delusional. You're taking credit for the public knowing who Frank Martin was, but we were watching the Michelle Rivera fight. It had nothing to do with you. And it was before you were even rumored to fight him. So again, you see Shakur is bringing this pressure on himself. And again, I tell you guys all the time, boxing ego, trust the name. I'm the best in the business and it's not even close. You can listen to me or you can listen to others just rushing out content, pushing and painting narratives and things like that. It's so ironic that people, instead of just keeping it real with the audience, which is what I do, you got people blaming Tank. Somehow, some way, the narrative shifts to Gervonta Davis as if Gervonta Davis made Shakur fight Joe Cordina coming off of a loss. Didn't happen. Tank was chilling. He was in Paris at the Olympics with Miss Universe and stuff and the boxers. So people keep throwing up Tank's name and bringing up Tank's name, but this is not a Tank deal. This is not a Tank issue. You're trying to blame Tank for Shakur's shortcomings. And furthermore, this is not a way to build a star in Tank, in Shakur. This is not a way to build a star at all. There's no branding. Shakur's, making the public not mess with him by saying certain things and saying "uck y'all" and all that type of stuff. And on top of that, you are fighting on Thursdays. You're fighting on other people's card on the undercard, and you're fighting in Saudi Arabia, which just makes an American name harder to access. How many Americans are traveling, especially fans? This is boxing. How many fans are traveling to the kingdom, Saudi Arabia, to see Shakur versus Cordina? Like, legit, how many people do you think are going to make that trek? Especially when Shakur fought at home in his last fight in Newark, and people were leaving. They were leaving the fight in his own hometown. And he blamed everybody. Fans blamed PBC. Shakur blamed ESPN and Bob Arum and Top Rank. So he said that they were paid actors, and how much did Top Rank pay him to leave to make me look bad? But you're looking bad on your own. You're not even, again, you're not with Bob. You're not with Top Rank and ESPN. And you're doing a great job of looking bad all on your own. So it looks delusional. Again, Top Rank was blamed for Shakur and him being held back. Just like I said earlier in the analogy I gave with the relationship, if that was truly what was holding you back, you should be able to fly. You should be able to fly and soar like an eagle above all the BS, because now you're a free agent. The free agency got cracking after your last fight, and this is your first move, which to me is a questionable move, right? Which, stay tuned to the end of the video. I always try to save something that's the best for last. But this just doesn't do anything for your brand. And then now all of a sudden we go from, like I said at the beginning of this, we go from chasing greatness, hashtag chasing greatness, to hashtag chasing a bag. It doesn't work like that. These are two conflicting messaging. Now you're all of a sudden about your money and about your paper, but before you were preaching to the fans that you were about legacy and that Tank and other guys weren't taking chances. And the reality is, Shakur can try as you may, you look crazy. Because let's just say William Zepeda is not available, because rumor has it Zepeda has a wife that is expecting, she's pregnant. So that's why Zepeda can't fight on that given date in Saudi Arabia. Fair play. He's a family man. He has an expecting wife. You want to be there for the birth of your child. Fair play. If that is in fact true, which is sources are saying it is true, he's not available. Shakur Stevenson, the In Shakurs, that's what we calling them now, the In Shakurs. So if you see people start saying that, you know where you got it from. The In Shakurs, the In Shakur Stevenson fans, they're blaming Tank. They're trying to somehow, some way pin the tail on the donkey and make this somebody else's problem. First, it was Top Rank holding it back. You're not with Top Rank, and you still are fighting really no better than what you had with Top Rank. In fact, it could be argued you're fighting worse than what you had, because Top Rank at least eventually gave you Oscar Valdez, Conceição, things like that. You're fighting a guy off a loss, not even of the weight class, right? So the In Shakurs, they're looking to blame whoever that they can. And now this is how you could tell who has a spine and who's spineless in this game. Because at the end of the day, you have people who they flip-flop. They like sandals. All they do is flip-flop. 1 minute, it's about, oh, I don't like Tank or I don't like Floyd because they're chasing a bag and all they care about is money and they should care about resume, and Tank needs to step up his resume, and Floyd, his resume will be questioned. They say these stupid talking points, right, about it should be legacy and the fans first and best versus the best. Now when it's someone you like Shakur Stevenson, who is talking the bag talk when he's being pretty much ridiculed and receiving a lot of backlash for Joe Cordina coming off a loss. And now he's like, F y'all, I'm international core. I'm fighting for the money. This is a business. Now all of a sudden y'all understand the business of boxing. Y'all some clowns. So Shakur clearly then graduated from Shakur Twitterson to In Shakur Stevenson. Again, if you see people saying that, know where you got it first. Boxing Ego. So it's just looking real emotional. That's how I got you. Emotional. And it's just sad, bro. Make sure you guys follow me. Instagram at BoxingEgo1. You see it. Link in the description. So I want to share with you what Shakur was saying. Shakur Stevenson says, "Uck y'all," to boxing fans. He says, "I'm not fighting for y'all no more." And I, of course, per usual, your boy Ego, I keep a receipt on me. So let me enlarge it for you. Shakur Stevenson says, "LOL, I'm not fighting for y'all no more. Uck y'all. International Court is active now." So basically, you're getting mad at us, the fans, because you're fighting a guy from a lighter weight class that's unknown, who's coming off of a TKO stoppage knockout loss. And instead of fighting on a Thursday, you're fighting on somebody's undercard. And somehow, some way, this is the problem, or this is boxing fans' fault. It's our fault as fans that this exists. So this is just not the way. I don't care what none of y'all say. I know I'm the best in the business, and it's not even close. Not the way to gain new fans. They were already leaving your own hometown show in your last fight. You promised a knockout, couldn't deliver. Clout chasing Tank, I've already went over in this video. You bringing bad-mouthing Tank and Frank Martin looks very stupid when you're fighting someone worse than both of them. And then now you're saying, uck us, the fans, and your international court. And I hate when people take this approach, Because you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of, like, let's say a guy tries to pop at a girl, get her number, and then she turns him down. And he's like, man, I don't even want her anyway. She kind of ugly. Her breath stank. You wanted her. You just trying to save face because she fronted on you and turned you down. Now you went from chasing greatness, which you see in the hashtag, to chasing a bag. You went from, oh, I love fighting at home in Newark, to international core. Like, he really thinks this is the amateurs. So have fun fighting in Russia and all these places. And then he goes on a Twitterson rant. Unappreciative ninjas think they matter. Nah, not to me. Suck my cry me a river. Yeah. Good job luring in new fans. And, like, for real, I'm just gonna be real. Cat's out the bag. I'm gonna be real. Crawford, his decisions have been questionable, but he can fight his butt off, and nobody complains about Crawford's style of fight. But for somebody who has had complaints about how they choose to fight and how their fights look, you could try to play this heel and play this villain, but I don't know how that's going to end up working for you in the long run. Because, again, Crawford, whether you love him or hate him, you got to admit that he can scrap and he can fight, so he's fun to watch. You are saying, suck my and won't filth, flooring, and filth, and people are saying they're bored with your fight. So out of all people in boxing, it don't seem like you should be doing this. Like, if Jaron Ennis or Tank or NOA or David Benavidez or something said that, because it'd be your loss if you don't watch their fights based on how they fight. Entertaining. You know, Virgil Ortiz, anybody like that. But for somebody who's more of the purist and kind of an acquired taste, you really probably aren't in a position to be losing any fans, especially how your last two fights have considered. Word to the wise, food for thought. He says that for the fans who F with me, I care about y'all for sure, but understand this is business, and it's make as much money as you can in this business. People want me to sit and wait around for literally every other fighter to make their decision, and he spelled weather wrong, but whatever. Whether they want to fight me now or later, but in reality, I will be waiting and waiting. But nah, I'm going to go get this bag over here real quick because that's what matters most to me now. Hashtag chasing the bag. Bro, just admit the pressure's getting to you, because as I stated in my previous video, he's saying hashtag chasing the bag, but then you were just talking about you're the best and chasing greatness. The message doesn't even make sense at this point. And somehow, some way, you're going to get content creators who blame Tank. Tank, his message is on point. He's on code. There's no conflicting message being sent. Come watch a Tank show. It's the hottest ticket in boxing. Somebody's probably getting hurt and somebody probably getting knocked out. Enjoy. And then when Tank get his back, and see, that's the other thing that looks pretty pathetic, to be honest, is Tank Davis make more money than Shakur, right? And I'm not saying that because Shakur make more money than us. Cool. So I'm not saying it in that way. But what I'm saying is you got somebody in Gervonta Davis who is far more exciting a fighter. He has haters, but a lot of the hate is from nowhere, really. Because why would you just look at it? Why would a content creator, like, just be real, why would a content creator make constant videos about Tank Davis and try to run their numbers up utilizing and clout chasing Tank's name, and then trying to uplift Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson as if they're more fun or exciting to watch, when you know good and well that Tank is more exciting to watch than both of them? For real, if we're just being real. So to me, it's not making sense. But you know the play. You know, Tank is money. His name represents money. So people are going to try to drop his name and clout chase and, you know, that whole nine. But all in all, this to me looks bad. Shakur Stevenson, you're blaming the fans. You're talking crazy. All the while, you're fighting on Thursdays and on undercards, and you got a brand new situation, a new promotion. Now, another amazing point that I brought up is what I said on my Twitter Again, you guys, the links are in the description for you to follow. But I said, setting aside all the other names that were available. Now, I want to spend a couple seconds, probably 40 seconds, talking about this, and then I'll jump back into the tweet. Barring all other names that are available, this man Shakur is saying it like on some, oh man, you guys just want me to sit around and rot and wait. You just fought, so stop it. You just fought in Newark and people were leaving the fight. So it's not like you've been out the ring for 11, 18 months and you can't get no work. You literally just fought. So that's one. Two, Zepeda, Tank, let's say those fights weren't available. Tank's on vacation in Paris, so he's not negotiating. Zepeda, as I said earlier, he got a baby coming. Fine. Let's just say those two things are true. You pick Joe Cordina coming off of a loss, a stoppage loss. It's still inexcusable, and I'm explaining why right now. The reason it's inexcusable is because let's say all the other names were unavailable, which we know is cap, because you can't tell me Pitbull, Rayo. I'm just saying guys in or around 35, 40. Pitbull, Rayo, Tank, Zepeda, Murataya, right? Tevin Farmer probably would be a bigger name or something than Shakur. And I could do this all. Subriel Matias. I mean, there's a ton of guys, right? Rolly. I mean, there's a ton of guys you could really fight, right? So let's just set that aside and just pretend like you had to bring someone up in weight. So I say, if you had to bring up a guy in weight, why not fight the guy that knocked out the guy? Meaning, why are you fighting the guy who lost, Joe Cordina, instead of the dude that knocked him out in Kakashe? It still doesn't make sense. So again, excusing the Muratayas of the world, Zepeda, and all these other names like Edwin De Los Santos rematch that are far better fights, we'll just stick to 130. If you had to bring up a guy from 130, why not bring up a guy who's off of an impressive win? Like, hey, you know what? You did a good thing at 130 and you coming off a great win, so I'm going to give you a shot. You're instead fighting the guy who got knocked out. This man, Joe Cordina, was rocked up in the third round of their fight. I watched the fight. See, there's a lot of people that they're going to say, oh, Ego, you're hating and all that. They're not going to, I don't care if they box. I don't care, none of that. The reality is you're not going to prove me wrong. I watched this fight. I seen the fight, and he got battered. Joe Cordina was battered. He got hurt in the third round, and he ultimately got stopped by a guy who, on per box rec, he don't even have that much power like that. So that's questionable. So again, if you had to bring up a guy from 130, why not bring up Kakashe, who he's coming off a knockout win over the guy you're now fighting. They both have one loss, which I'll show you in a second. Kakashe has never been stopped. He has more fights than Joe Cordina, never been stopped. He's 5'10". That's tall, so he's taller than Joe Cordina. And at 5'10", I would say that's taller than Shakur. He's a southpaw, and again, he won his last fight by stoppage. You are picking the loser of the contest, which is inexcusable if you are Shakur Stevenson. Boom. I told you, save the best for last. So I'm showing you. Joe Cordina, Dova, whatever his name is. He has a record of 17-1, and he has 9 knockouts, and he's been stopped in his last fight. These are the facts, receipts, right? So remember that number, 17-1. The guy that beat him has more fights, and he too has one loss, but the one loss, he's never been stopped. Nobody stopped him. So at least he's game bred, and he looked pretty tough. So again, Shakur is picking the guy with less fights, who's shorter, who's not much of a bigger brand, who, especially to Americans, he's not like this huge brand or something that everybody is checking for. And this dude is a southpaw, which Shakur has issue with southpaws, trust me. So you really can't sell this. You can't really sell this. A guy with less fights, I'm sure his reach is probably less. This dude's reach is not listed. But anyway, at 5'10", so the bottom line is this was wrong with boxing, because people should be getting rewarded. They should truly be getting rewarded for a job well done. This guy stepped up with Cordina. He wasn't expected to win, and somehow he pulled it out, hurt Cordina throughout, and then he ended up stopping it. And you really, if you watch the fight, you can make a case for Cordina was getting battered. And this is at 130 now. He was getting battered. The corner should have considered stopping it before it ended up getting stopped. And this is who Shakur, aka In Shakur Stevenson, Twitterson, or whatever, has picked. And again, you're going to have content creators try to spin it and flip it and somehow make this Gervonta Davis's fault. But this is absolutely Shakur. This is his call. This is his career. You can't blame Top Rank. You can't blame Bob Arum. You can't blame Boxing Ego. You can't blame Gervonta Tank Davis. The blame lies solely with Shakur and his team, because this is what you elected to do. And again, as far as that saying F the fans and international core, God bless. Enjoy that. We unpacked.